Welcome back. Welcome back. On Sunday, Iraq holds its third parliamentary election since the 2003 war. As American troops prepare to withdraw, it's a critical stage for Iraq's fledgling democracy. But with 511 candidates barred from standing because of alleged former links with the Baathist party, Saddam Hussein's party, will sectarian rivalries compromise the credibility of this key election? To find out, I'm joined now from Damascus by Saleh al-Mutlaq, who is head of the Iraqi National Front and probably the most prominent of all the politicians who've been excluded from the ballot paper. You are one of the most important, one of the leading politicians in Iraq. How did it feel? Was it infuriating or what, to be banned from participating in this election as a candidate?
Well, it's a very bad feeling, for myself and for the country, because, you could imagine what sort of democracy we are having in our country when myself and another more than 500 political parties and political figures are being banned from this election. It is the first time that we hear that a candidate in the election could isolate the other candidate, and the election will be run, and it's so-called the democracy in the country. It's something strange. We never thought that something would happen like that. Even in the dream, we could not dream that the political process and the democratic process will be going as it is now. But it looks that the Iranian style is going to be imposed on our country, where they could ban whom they want, and they could, permit to whom they want to be in the election process.
Yes, but they would say, the people involved in this banning, obviously, would claim that it was logical that people with Baathist, i.e. Saddam links, should be banned from this election because the Baathists should be banned from this election. It's not just something that's going to go on every time. There's a specific reason for it, which you don't accept, but there is a specific reason for it.
Well, first, I am not a Baathist. I am not a Saddamist. They could not prove that I'm either a Baathist or a Saddamist. I was banned from the election by the Accountability and Justice Committee, in which I did not see them. And I was also banned from the court, which I did not see any judge, or my lawyer also saw any judge. We did not know till now what are the accusations against us. We did not know, we did not have a decision from the court till now that we are banned from the election. So just imagine, and just tell me in which country and in which principles such a democracy can be run, where you are going to be punished without knowing why you were being punished. They say that you were supporting the Baathists, promoting for the Baath ideas. But how could you prove that I'm promoting for the Baath idea where I am the head of another party? If I am a head of another party, how could I promote for another party? And why should I? This is a very strange thing that happened in Iraq, but unfortunately, the Americans are in a hurry to leave the country, and they want to do the election at any cost. Otherwise, what happened in Iraq should not be accepted, neither from the world nor from America or the United Nations. They should have stopped it, because it is against the principles, it is against the standards of democracy anywhere in the world. They should tell them that the legitimacy of this election is not going to be considered if they are going to go as they are.
Well, what about the situation we hear clearly there, and obviously there's a difference between Baathists who did bad things and Baathists who were innocent of bad things and so on. One totally sees that. But in terms of the actual election, what do you think will be the result of this election on Sunday? We hope there will not be bombings and so on, more bombings, but what do you think will be the actual result? Who will win this election?
I think we won from the beginning. Before the election we won. This is why they want to ban us. When we stood and raised our hands together as a list. They thought that this list is going to be number one, and in a very aggressive way. This is why they banned Saleh al-Mutlaq and the Dialogue Party, so that they want to weaken the list. But even so, we encouraged people to go, even if we were out, because our aim is not to be member of parliament. Our aim is to do the change. So we asked people to go and go to the election and vote for Iraqi. And I would expect Iraqi to be far ahead in the election, unless the fraud is going to be big. Of course, now we have an IHAC which is totally independent because it's biased. It was based on combination of the major parties in Iraq, al-Da'wa, ISKI, the Islamic Party, and the two Kurdish parties. Whereas all the other parties, they do not have a representative in such a committee, in which, according to the Constitution, it has to be independent. But this is all not independent from the beginning. And also we have the banding of specific people and specific parties from the election. Now, with all that, people are, they are going to the election with a determination to do the change and vote for Iraqi. And my information that what happened today and yesterday, the vast majority of the Iraqis are voting for
Iraqi, and you think they're in the lead at the moment. But would you say that, I mean, it's very difficult for you because you have been a victim of this judgment and this banning, but at least there is progress in the sense that this is the second democratic election in Iraq's history, and it didn't happen at all during the time of Saddam. Things are getting a bit better, aren't they?
Well, I have to be very clear and honest, and maybe they will accuse me for another accusation. We used to have democracy in Saddam's times. Maybe it's not it's not that worse than this election. Both of them are bad. Before, if you are a Baathist, and if you are near to the Ba'ath party, you can participate and be a candidate. At least they give 20% for the independent people. But now they isolate you just because you are a strong competitor to them. They isolated us when they noticed that the results of the NDI, which is an American institute, showed that Saleh al-Mutlaq will get 73% from the what they call the Sunni areas. 73% out of 85%, and the 15% they have not decided yet. When they saw the result, they had decided to go and isolate Saleh al-Mutlaq from this election. This cannot be accepted and cannot be cannot be accepted under the standard of any fair and decent and legitimate election anywhere in the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us with you. Thank you indeed.
On Saturday, Icelanders will vote on a referendum to decide whether the country should repay $5.1 billion to the British and Dutch governments. The governments paid out that sum to bail out savers who lost money when 3 Icelandic banks collapsed in 2008. And now they want Iceland to pay it back. But will Icelanders cough up? They're voting this weekend, and a no vote seems the likeliest outcome. Ahead of the vote, the Icelandic government is still trying to ham out a new deal with Britain and the Netherlands, one which might avoid Saturday's vote. But negotiations seem to be breaking down again. So can Iceland come up with a proposal that will make everybody happy, including the Icelanders themselves, indeed? Joining me now is Icelandic journalist Sigrun Davidsdottir. Welcome, Sigrun, very good to have you with us. What is the situation today? You think that these talks are going on sort of sporadically, but they won't be enough to take away, get rid of the referendum tomorrow?
No, I definitely don't think so. The referendum will be held. The thing is that although the referendum is on quite a technical issue regarding the agreement that was made a while ago, Icelanders have come to see this referendum as their possibility to say yes or no to bailing out the bankers, bailing out irresponsibility, and so on. So I think that although Icelanders do realize that the referendum isn't really about that, the feeling the last days have been. I talked to an Icelander yesterday, and he was mentioning, I know the referendum doesn't change anything, but it's good for the soul to vote. And I think there will be many who feel the same.
And will the 5.3 billion some way or other be repaid sometime, or is there a possibility it will never be repaid?
I think that Icelanders are aware that because of what Icelandic politicians and bankers said before the collapse of the three banks in October 2008, in terms of guaranteeing foreign deposits, there is a certain responsibility, a feeling of responsibility in Iceland that this money has to be paid, yes. However, terms and conditions do matter a lot, and the Icelanders haven't been content with what they have been offered, and that's why the negotiation is still going on.
And in terms of the ambitions of Iceland, alleged ambitions of Iceland to join the EU, if they vote no tomorrow, will that affect the chances of Iceland joining the EU, or has support for the EU in Iceland diminished?
The referendum has nothing to do with EU membership or not. However, yes, support seems to have diminished quite a bit. There was the feeling, as everything was going on, everything was collapsing around in Iceland, that EU would somehow help. I think a lot of people have now changed their mind, although Iceland is quite connected to the EU because we are members of what is called the European Economic Area, which means that we are part of the inner market. So we already have a lot to do with the EU, and the EU matters a great deal to us, but we are not members.
Is the fishing industry concerned about the EU?
The fishing industry is very concerned about the EU, and that's sort of been the main obstacle in many people's mind. However, nothing will be sure until a membership has been negotiated, and that will show us what terms are available.
And at this moment, with no pun intended, the situation seems to be frozen.
Yes, it does, but that doesn't mean that everything is frozen in Iceland. I mean, I think while we had the banks and the financial sector was so overwhelmingly big, a lot of other things were hidden, and I think that now with the banks, well, some of them gone, other things are coming into the light in Iceland. So there is space for a lot more. And another thing which is quite important is that Iceland is actually investigating frauds or alleged frauds within the banks. And I think that's something that other countries could actually take a look at.
That's, that has a familiar ring to it. And
yes.
In fact, fraud is one of the subjects coming up in the next part of our programme in a rather different way. Thanks ever so much for being with us, and I hope there's a happy ending.
Thank you. We hope so as well.
We'll be right back with a blockbusting play about fraud. How did Lucy Prebble do it, and what happens next when it goes to Broadway?